The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
God is a solution. God, the 12-step.
I like where he's going here.
Helps the community grow, helps us grow. Monty has done a phenomenal job, and you're talking about taking people through a spiritual process, getting them into recovery.
Thanks, Monty, and thanks for all your support.
We need spirituality to make this thing work long term.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
And now, broadcasting on location somewhere in the vast expanse of the Pacific Northwest, it's the over-opinionated 12-stepologist, the Monty'man.
That's right. You got it, baby. Bring it on home. Yes. Well, welcome aboard, one and all, to another fine episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, broadcasting to you and for you from the outskirts of beautiful downtown Albany, Oregon, where the weather is cold outside and it's frightful. And my dear, you're so delightful. Oh, is that season over? Okay. Yes, indeedy. This is the first installment for 2024 for the Couples in Recovery broadcast. Featuring couples in recovery, their stories of experience, strength, and hope. And we are going to be talking to our good friends Danny and Darlene today on the show. And so let me introduce them to you really quick. Right after I introduce to you, if you're watching on YouTube, that beautiful young lady right there in the plaid, that is my beautiful wife, Marcia. Hey, Marcia.
Hi.
Well, you can say hello. You know, there is a microphone. You can speak into it. And she has, you have co-hosted with me before, just a couple of times. Mm-hmm. I think one of the last ones we did was called Married to Addiction.
Yeah. And
that was with Martin.
Yes. And
Catherine? Kathy. Yeah, Martin and Kathy. Yeah, so that would it's been a lot of years.
While.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's been a lot of years. So I have to give kudos to my wife right now, because if it wasn't for her support and her patience and her putting up with my shenanigans, Take 12 Recovery Radio wouldn't even exist. And so moving over there's Darlene.
Hey, Darlene.
That's Darlene, and she's the other half of Danny. There's Danny smiling away. Now, Danny and Darlene have both been on the show, but it has been even longer since they were here, a long, long time ago. And I don't think you guys were married, because you were on the show separately.
Yes.
Yeah. And Danny was on the show separately. But they are now hitched to each other, for better and for worse, and all that kind of great stuff. And we're going to be talking about that, of course, today.
Stop right there!
Uh-oh.
Because it's time for the Monty'man's Weekly Whine, where he whimpers and whines and complains about things he has no power over.
Yep.
Boo-hoo.
It's all right. You're safe now.
That's right. It's my opportunity to complain about something I have no power over. Maybe. We'll see. But I picked this issue, listeners, because I have a partner in crime here in the room that is going to say amen when I share this thing that I'm complaining about. Baristas. If I say baristas, Darlene, you know where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do.
So there is a thing, and I don't know if they're trained to do this. They must be, because it happens at almost every single one of the coffee drive-thrus that I've gone through over the years, where you pull up and I never thought we would complain about people being polite, but stop being so polite. I mean, you pull up to the thing, you order your coffee. Listen, I really don't want to share about my plans for the day. Darlene, chime in here with me, because I know this drives you crazy, right?
It absolutely does.
Okay, so what? Share one of your experiences with us.
When we're in a hurry and we've got somebody hanging out a window trying to talk to us about what our plans are for the day. Oh, that sounds fun. Oh, and just keep on and on. And I want to say, go make the coffee.
Just go make the coffee.
Hurry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know you. You won't be there when I need bail money. You know.
I know. And Danny, you've actually haven't you been kind of a smart aleck here and said some things like, we're hoping not to go to jail today or something like that?
I'm going to need bail money and separate cells and whatever.
Right. Yeah. And how do they respond? Do they look at you sideways?
They do. Well, that's the first time I've ever heard that. So... And then I ask them if they got any stickers, and then they shut the window on me and say no.
I know. And that's another complaint I have. The stickers have gotten really small. They used to be pretty good size, So I'm going to go ahead and throw them under the bus because I have no problem doing that. Listeners, you know that I have no problem mentioning brand names or company names or anything like that. So the two I'm thinking about primarily is Dutch Bros, right? And the other one is Human Being. Now, I personally like Human Being. I don't really care for Dutch Bros that much. I think their coffee is watered down and a little weak, but that's just me. But Human Being hasn't done this in a while, but Dutch Bros, it's just like, so what are your plans for today? I feel like I need to have an itinerary before I go to the coffee shop and hand it to them. Say, here it is. And you're on there. You're cleaning my car at 4 p.m. this afternoon. But yeah, so Barista's asking about my day. That's my wine. There it is. Probably don't have any power over it. If that's the only thing you got to do.
Well, you can go somewhere else.
What?
That's too practical. Sorry.
And my favorite is Dutch Brothers. I just don't want to have a conversation, but I love their coffee.
Yeah.
And so you like their coffee.
Yes,
right,
I do.
Right.
Yeah.
But you just don't want to,
Yeah.
I got plenty of friends. I don't need you, right?
I don't know when you're ever going to need me. So.
I have yet to meet a place that can make a caramel apple smoothie as good as Dutch Brothers.
Really? Now I'll have to try that now.
It is very good.
Caramel apple smoothie. Cold?
Yes.
Cold thing? Okay.
Yep, blended, yumminess, extra caramel.
Yeah. So if you'd like to complain about something you're powerless over, you can send your complaints in to somebody who cares.
1-800.
All right, we'll be back. We will be back with our guest and our guest co-host, Marcia Meyer, my beautiful wife. We'll be talking to Danny and Darlene, couples in recovery, them sharing their experience, strength, and hope right after this.
Don't cry out loud, just keep it inside. Learn how
Too
to
late.
hide your feelings.
You're listening to the world's original recovery talk and positive music radio program, the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show on KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Hey, it's the Monty'man. You've heard us talk a lot about emotional sobriety here at Take 12 Recovery Radio. Well, 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety is Dr. Alan Berger's best book yet. Within these pages, he makes his stand in support of what Bill Wilson, co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, predicted would be the next frontier of the 12-step movement. This is a book you will want to keep handy for some time to come. That comes from our good friend Tom Rutledge. Listen, Tom would know. He's the co-host of the Emotional Sobriety Podcast along with Dr. Alan Berger. You can listen to that podcast by visiting us at take12radio.com and clicking on the Recovery Podcast Network's purple banner at the bottom of the page. For an autographed copy of 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety, visit Dr. Berger's website at abphd.com. This book is also available on Amazon.
L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore can love. Is all that I can give.
All right, welcome back to the show. Little Nat King Cole there for you. Talking about love and relationships and that kind of thing, specifically couples in recovery. Oh, what was that? So to give you kind of a lineup of what's coming up on Take 12 Recovery Radio before we talk to our guest this week, on Wednesday on the short Monty'man's Meditorial, the topic will be people that retreat from their recovery, working with people that are continually relapsing. We're going to be talking about that. On Friday, Walking Through the Language of the Heart with Chris S. and myself, we'll be moving into part 3 of the Grapevine articles of Bill Wilson that he wrote for the Grapevine from 1944 to 1970. We're going into segment 1, and the topic will be the greatest gift of all. Wonder what that is. We're going to be talking about that on Friday. And then next Monday, AA Circuit Speaker J.S. from Sedona, Arizona will be speaking at what many consider the Woodstock of AA, the Step Ashore Conference in Ocean Shores, Washington. He spoke at that, and we have him on the show the following Monday. And then the Monty'man's Meditorial again on the following Wednesday. When some people share, I still cringe. Will be the topic for that. And then we've got a whole lineup. We've got a full month for you in February as well, so be looking forward to that. And you can subscribe for fun and for free always at take12radio.com and click on any of the major podcasting platforms listed there or wherever you get your podcast. All right, couples in recovery. Some would say never date somebody that is in recovery. Some would even go as far as saying, never date someone particularly that is going to your home group. Some would say, don't get into any relationships your first year of sobriety or recovery. Some would say that. Some would say a lot of things that aren't necessarily part of the 12-step fellowships, or at least the programs. Is there some wisdom in some of that? Maybe. But we need to be careful about some of the stuff we spout. We did a whole show last year with Matt Brown, the CEO of Freedom Interventions, about the crazy things we hear in meetings. And certainly we hear a lot of crazy stuff when it comes to relationships in meetings, in 12-step support groups. I will tell you, though, that I have met several people who have met within the different 12-step fellowships who began a relationship and continued it into a successful marriage. Two such people are our guests this week, Danny and Darlene from Lebanon, Oregon. And so they're going to be sharing their experience, strength, and hope, and I'm going to kind of lead the way here. Before we do that, though, I do want to ask Marcia a question or kind of point out something to you. So, for the listener's sake, Marcia is what many would refer to as a, what's the word I'm going to use? Anybody know?
Codependent.
Well, that'd be very accurate.
Better half.
Al-Anon.
A normie.
Okay.
When it comes to alcoholism, right? I don't think there are any normies in life. I think everybody's got something for the tails wagging the dog, right? But some might refer to you as that, right? But I don't think you even come close to that, because I think you have been through a relationship with an alcoholic that at one time was active, or active and then inactive, and then active and then inactive. And I'm not talking about being active in the program, and dealing with that. And yet you're kind of an odd duck in the sense that you really never attached to Al-Anon. You went, and they were kind of like, lose the loser, kind of thing. And that is not necessarily the spirit of Al-Anon. There's a lot of things that happen in meetings of different groups that aren't really reflective of the program of those meetings. But you really never did kind of attach yourself to any of that. No. So how did you deal with me What was your secret sauce, so to speak, to stay sane?
I think my faith
Yeah.
is where I clung to. And the people around me, my family, people in the church, that's where I found my comfort and, the ability to process things, meeting with my pastor.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the church. Al-Anon was a strange thing to me. And I couldn't really identify because my life was so different than a lot of them. Even though they were dealing with an alcoholic, even in their own lives, the things and struggles that they went through, I couldn't identify. And so I couldn't make those connections.
Right. At some point, though, you did make a connection with an author.
Yes.
Right? It was a book called Codependent No More.
Melody Beatty.
By Melody Beatty, who's been on the show a long time ago. And at one point, what did you do with that book when you were reading it?
I threw it across the room and it laid there for months before I'd pick it up again.
Yeah.
Because it identified what I was feeling, but it also identified some of my control issues, which I didn't think I had control issues.
You didn't think you had any?
No.
Yeah.
So I didn't like hearing that.
Right. But you did, and you did at some point take it to heart, and it helped you.
Yeah, applied it.
So you're one of these people that, I mean, it's more common to hear within many of the 12-step fellowships, let's say the mainstream ones, it's very common to hear people kind of poo-poo the idea of church or faith. I get more out of this meeting than I do in any church. We hear that a lot. And not to say that isn't accurate, that's a person's experience. But you're one of these folks. It was just the opposite. That's where you got your support. That's where you got your understanding and so forth. So praise God for that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so we all have our own experiences. So I just wanted the listeners to know, and you have been invested in the ministry of Take 12 Recovery Radio for 20 years. You've had to learn about alcoholism. You've had to learn about the big book and the NA basic text and, stuff like Dr. Alan Berger teaches and emotional sobriety and all that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
And so that isn't stuff you don't normally find in a church.
Right.
Right.
True.
But you've got a kind of a balance of both worlds. Yeah.
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 Just my experience with walking through your story.
Yeah.
Because I'm a part of that, and so learning that as you learn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
And anytime you want to jump in and ask these two a question, feel free to do that. All right, Danny and Darlene. So I'll preface it by saying that I think I've known Darlene longer, but I've known them both for a very long time, and I've known them both as through all of their mishaps and journey and recovery and so forth, as two people that I've always looked up to, I've always admired, and I'm so glad that we reconnected here not long ago. You guys did something, before we talk about how you met and all that, you guys did something that many people found it necessary to do when it came to your particular 12-step fellowship and meeting together, right? So you guys had experienced the mess with the meeting shutdowns during COVID, right? So who wants to share what exactly you did about that? They're looking at each other.
I got a phone call from...
Pull the mic a little closer to you there, kiddo.
I got a phone call from a really dear friend of mine who had just came back into the program and was experiencing 4 months of continuous sobriety, and the meeting shut down because of COVID. And she called and was very upset and said, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I will not stay sober without meetings. And so I said, let me call you back. I haven't got an answer. And I said, Danny, what are we going to do? Nobody's getting meetings. And he said, tell them to come over to the backyard. They can't stop us from that.
Yeah.
And so we had our first little get together in the backyard, and there were 6 people. And then we said, we'll do it again next week, same time. And then I think we had 25, 27 people when we had a get together again just last night. That it's grown that much.
Yeah.
So that's, people come and they enjoy, and we all just share about things that we have in common.
Yeah, it was really, I think it was God inspired, because with all of the COVID going on and all of the masking and the social distancing, when she asked what are we going to do, and I said, we own this place, they can't tell us not to do something. So we invited people over, bring a lawn chair and something to drink. I'll pull the fire pit out in the yard. We started, having some a fire, and I told everybody that came over, if you have a problem with social distancing, you can sit over there, and if you have a problem with somebody wearing a mask, leave them alone. This is not the platform to argue about politics, social distancing, masking, not masking. Everybody needs to have what we have back here. So let's welcome everybody, and I'll tell you, we didn't have one single problem. Not one. We had fire every Friday, and then it turned into just something special all summer long, and we do it every spring and summer, and it's just kind of like a gift that God allows us to give other people.
Yeah.
And and it's not a financial thing. It's not a up here, down here kind of thing. It's just that we open this yard up to anybody that wants to share about Jesus. They want to share about alcohol, drugs. It doesn't matter. You come into the yard and get it off your chest.
Yeah.
And it's just blossomed.
Yeah.
And if we ever have everybody that has ever been to that meeting show up at the same time, there might be a problem.
You're gonna have to get a football field. So one of the unique things about this gathering, besides the fact on how it started and how it continues, is that you guys have no problem with people being God specific.
No.
In the meeting.
No.
And when I say God specific, for those who are going, what's he going to say now? Well, if you've been listening to this show long enough, you won't be surprised. I am talking about the reference to the God who we believe is God, and that would be Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Now, there's a reference to Christ in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Actually, to tell you the truth, in most spiritual writings from different religions, from different recovery programs, at the very least, Jesus is part of their lineup of superstars, at least at that point.
Yeah.
And in your particular meeting, there is no issue. If somebody stood up and said their higher power was the fire pit, no one is going to give them guff about it.
No.
And therefore, no one gives anybody guff about being specific about who Christ is. Now, those of us who attend there is many of us that attend there that are born again, Bible believing Christians.
Yeah.
But we're also 12-steppers, and we're also very protective of those things.
Yeah.
And so we stick to the particular literature of that particular fellowship pretty doggone good, I would say, probably more than many. And you guys have experienced a little kickback from maybe a couple of people, but not too much, right?
No.
And it continues on, and I'm just so grateful for it. And I worked in a ministry that really, because of my own decision and just the time I was spending in it, kind of took me away from the 12-step fellowships. And so when I retired, or I was getting ready to retire, I jumped right back in, and I found this backyard meeting. And I am telling you what, it's the cat's meow Is that such a thing? Does it catch me out?
There absolutely is.
But you two are really a team and to be reckoned with. And I thank you so much. And you make it very clear this isn't Danny and Darlene's meeting. This is your meeting, you know. But sometimes we need people to step out and get the engine running. And you guys have been so faithful. And thank you so much for that. But let's talk about you. You know, have you, either one of you, ever heard people say, well, you don't want to date people in the program? Ever heard that, Darlene?
Yeah, I heard, don't go shopping in the junkyard for a new car.
Don't go shopping in the junkyard for a new car.
Yeah, that's not where you find your life mate.
But was it a new car, really? I mean, or was it kind of a jalopy?
I have a Lamborghini now.
You got a Lamborghini. Bless your heart.
Ooh. He's purring.
So when you heard stuff like that, did you go, oh yeah, that's probably good advice? Or did you go, phooey with that, I'm looking?
I thought that was probably great advice because I knew what I was capable of, and I wasn't looking for anybody that had any of the tendencies I have. The problem with that is nobody's going to understand where I'm coming from without a lot of help or have been there from the very beginning and seen how much better it is for me to be in a meeting, you know.
Yeah.
So, or for me to find a home group, or for me to have a person that I work with, and you know, nobody would see that unless they knew what it was like before that. That's how they go,
right?
Please go, unless they're just like me. So it's probably the best place for me to shop or whatever.
Sure.
To go ahead and get that new car.
Sure. So to kind of qualify, as far as substances goes, was it primarily an alcohol issue for you?
Was it anything?
It was anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the end, it was alcohol because something gave me this stigma, you know, that everybody says, oh, do you want to go get a drink? But nobody says, do you want to go take a hit off this? So that kind of faded away where, you know, the alcohol was a big deal. I could find it anywhere, you know, until 2:30 in the morning, and it wasn't limited, and it wasn't a crime to go get it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you bet.
It came to just that in my ending part, and it was horribly, how do I get away from this? I don't even know how. So
yeah. So you conceded in your innermost self that you were powerless over this thing, that it had you by the neck.
Yes.
Yeah. Danny, what about you? Was it primarily alcohol, or were you?
I was a garbage can.
You were a garbage can. Yeah.
I was like Mikey. Hey, Mikey likes it.
He'll eat anything. Yeah. So you actually well tell the story really quickly about you rubbing shoulders with that famous group down in the Los Angeles area.
Well,
it's called Dog on the Roof. Dog on the Roof, right, right.
They came into a detox I was at. Well, just a little bit before I met the fellows from the Dog on the Roof, I'm sitting in a park on a picnic table pondering my life, and I'm almost 28 years old. And, you know, and the thought, you know, flashed in my mind of something that went on when I was in junior high for a football physical. The doctor told my parents that this child has a super metabolism. He's going to outlive the entire family chronologically, and they told me what that meant. And I thought, how cool is that? I'm going to live longer than you and you and you and you and you. Well, fast forward 15 or whatever, however many years, 20 years almost. I'm sitting on this park bench. My life's upside down. I had tried AA once before just to beat the deal at the courthouse in 1984, but now my life is like upside down, and I'm looking for, you know, I don't know what I'm looking for, honestly. I just know that my life is upside down. No friends, no enemies, and that thought crossed my mind. I'm going to live to be 100 years old, and oh my gosh, 75 more years of this. I got to do something. My first thought was not, I need to go into a rehab or a program,
Yeah.
my very first thought was, who can I get $20 from? Right? I got to shut this off.
Yeah.
And I went over to a really good friend. His name was Earl, and he was always good for $20 or $40, and we'd always work it out somehow, right? And he proceeded to tell me exactly what he thought I was on his front porch, loud enough for the neighbors to hear.
Really?
Loser, you're good for nothing. Nobody wants you around. And I tell you what, if you want to come in and get on the phone, we will get you some help. And my very next thought was, I'm going to go in there, get on the phone. I'm getting that $20. And I never got that $20. I ended up in detox. We got a hold of the Buckley House Detox in Costa Mesa, and they said, can you be here in 2 hours? And Earl had me down there in probably 20 minutes. I'm not sure exactly, and I'm not sure if his truck came to a complete stop.
Yeah.
Out the door.
Wow.
And that's God doing for me what I cannot do for myself. I believe that as sure as I'm sitting right here today, because I met the people that would change my entire life.
Yeah.
These men that came down to that detox a couple of days later when I was cleared to go would not leave me alone till I told them I would go to a meeting with them. And they took me that night. And it was Monday night Bellflower group. And everybody had a suit and a tie and a sport coat and nice clothes, and I had a hole in both shoes, all my pants. I had hair halfway down my back, and I thought I didn't fit in. This wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
I met the guys at the Dog on the Roof that night, and then I met them again the next night and the next night, and then Thursday night it was the Dog on the Roof, and they spoke my language, and they actually, I could tell they had been where I had been. Some of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have anything better going, so I just hung out with them.
Wow.
I got out of detox and went to a convention with them in San Diego, and the next 10 years was life-changing for me. I learned a lot about me and a lot about my higher power. I learned a lot about God saved me from a lot of pain and walked me through a lot of things that I shouldn't have been able to make it through, but I did.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you ever think in a million years you'd meet somebody like Darlene?
Someday. I had hopes. I had hopes, yeah. I had hopes that someday I will find somebody. I was terminally single. Right? I'm a great starter, lousy finisher. I sobered up and I had fathered 2 kids. Didn't know where they were. Didn't know where their mothers were. And maybe I'm supposed to be single. Maybe I'm supposed to just work with new guys and be single.
Mm-hmm.
And I had come to grips with that's okay. I was just going to do what I thought was right. And, sobered up in 1990, turned left at 12 and a half years sober, drank and used again, was out for 7 years, came back in 2009, and been sober ever since, thank you, Lord. And met Darlene in 2017, the end of 2017, and it just kind of happens. It happened, and it was just what she did. I was speaking. A friend of mine had a speaker back out and asked me to speak, and I spoke. And it's not the first time I've spoke. And she was sitting in the chair right next to where the speaker sat, and she didn't know me. I didn't know her, and she said, "Hey, can we pray before you speak?"
What?
And I'm like,
you are bold. That is. I love it. I love it. That's great.
I quote.
Yeah.
And so
she didn't even know you.
No, I let her pray, and I it's just like kind of like when you pray before you do a 5th step. Pray for forgiveness and honesty and love and just the truth. And one flirt led to another after that, and we both backed out of a couple of first dates, and we finally got to go out on a date, and we went to a big Chinese restaurant and had $50 or $60 worth of Chinese food in front of us. And when we left, we took $50 or $60 worth of Chinese food with us. 'Cause I don't think
Lord bless the MSG.
We just talked.
Yeah.
And there's something about you don't need to be chomping on no food. You don't need to be drinking no drinks or no this or no that. We were just sitting there and we were just talking, and I can guarantee neither one of us know what we said that night. But by gosh, it was just something.
So let's rewind to this prayer thing, though. This is what I want to get to. So Darlene, you never met this guy. Had you lent yourself to doing that before with people? Just, can I pray for you? Can I,
I have a crazy friend.
Pull that mic right up to you there, kiddo.
I have a crazy friend named Nicole, and a couple weeks before that, her and I were at church, and she said, come on, let's go. And I said, where are we going? Let's go talk to the pastor. Okay. And I knew him. It wasn't a big deal. So we went up to talk to him, and she said, we want to pray. And I looked at her, and I said, we do? He said, what are we praying about? And she said, we want husbands. I said, oh, Lord. She bumped her head. No, we don't. She might. I don't. And he then focused on, he said, what would you want in a husband? And I said, well, if I did want a husband, which I don't, I would want somebody who loved Jesus like I do. And she said, yeah, put that down for me too. So anyways, and so we went to Celebrate Recovery, or a place after that.
Okay, that's fine.
And in walked this guy, and she went, Lord, can I keep him? And I said, stop that. And she ended up marrying him, and we, about a week later, were at a meeting, and the one who was chairing the meeting said, dang, Darlene, he said, my speaker backed out on me. And I said, oh, and I started picking up my purse. He said, where are you going? And I said, you said your speaker backed out. He said, no, I called a friend. I got somebody from Lebanon coming. You're going to love him. I didn't know him, and I was going to really love him. And so anyways, he showed up, and then I thought, I wonder if he's prayed, because he got called on short notice. And before I share anything, I try to.
You didn't have any history of his spiritual beliefs or anything.
Yeah, no thing about him. Nope.
Right.
I just said, have you prayed? And he said, not yet. And I said, let's pray. So, and we did.
Wow.
I figured, you're talking to all my friends. You're going to tell your stuff to everybody that I communicate with. Let's make sure we get this good. Let's make sure we invite God in this. And so we did, and he's right. Some flirts later and some Facebook stuff, and so, we backed out of some dates. Somebody he had invited me on a date, and he had put a video of his yard work in his house on Facebook, and at that time I lived in this terrible, dumpy little trailer park, and when my sponsor came to pick me up one time, we were backing out, and her car audibly said, her GPS said, you are leaving a dangerous territory.
Oh, my goodness.
And I canceled the date that night, because I was like, he ain't coming over here. I seen what his house looks like. He's going to think I'm trash, and I'm not going to, because I'm crazy, So anyways, we went ahead, and she told me that was the dumbest thing she ever heard. He doesn't even know what your house looks like. He asked you to go out, so go. So I didn't break the date, and we ended up, I took one of the girls that I sponsored, and he took his granddaughter, our first date, and our second date.
Back up.
Yeah, our second. We both wanted back up. And so, and then we actually went, our second date, we went to the Chinese restaurant and had that food, and it was, everything just led after that. It was wonderful. Yeah.
What was there, put this question to either one of you, was there like a aha moment that you thought, this is way more than just a few dates?
I will tell you, the first time she cooked for me, I mentioned, because she wanted me to come over to her house for dinner, and I said Tuesday would be fine, and I did that every Tuesday for a few months.
Yeah.
And I told her that I'm basically a meat, potatoes, maybe 2 or 3 different vegetables, corn, beans, and no fancy, guess what you just ate kind of
right,
attitude.
No and sushi from China.
7-Eleven.
I showed up.
Right.
She had some roast beef, mashed potatoes, a little garden salad with some croutons on it, yay. And she was standing. I caught her looking at me out of the corner of my eye, and I took that first bite, and I was like, and I took another bite, and she knew. I'm like, this is good. She's doing the little bunny hop thing like that and all that stuff. And she did that every Tuesday. She'd be on the porch waiting when I would pull up to back into her driveway. She'd be beep, beep, boom, boom. And I'm like, wow. And it's just kind of like, this is pretty cool, because I had not had this never had this.
Yeah.
And I believe I related it to a gift from God, and if God's going to give me this heart to care about, I'm going to do everything I can to treat her like a gift. And it's just the opposite. She treats me like a gift every day. And it's amazing. Not every day is like we're sounding right now. We have our moments and disagreements of sorts, but when you have a God-centered household, I'm telling you folks that there's an answer.
Yeah.
It may not be right now.
Right.
But the answer is in prayer. And then zip it. That's for me anyhow. Pray and then zip it. Because the controlling part of Danny can ruin it all. And I tell you what, I work hard at it to not be that.
Yeah.
But when it's time to take charge of our situations, I will be the man of the house. And she lets me do that. Which is a super welcoming privilege. I welcome that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the spiritual leader in your household, and you walk forward, and Darlene, you follow. And you guys are very strong believers in the priority of God's first, right?
Yes.
Family second, and everything falls after that, right? So it's God, then it's you guys, and then all these other things, which can be a little tricky when you are in ministry like you two are. And I say ministry because it truly is that.
Yeah.
You guys are very active in your church. You are very active in your 12-step fellowship. You show up every week, and not just one day a week, but you work with other people in learning how to apply and implement the 12 disciplines in those steps. That can keep a person busy for a lifetime, right? Yeah. And yet you do that. You're a team, but you are also very much individuals.
Absolutely.
Right? So let me ask you, Darlene, how do you think you separate the oneness that you have, because the two become one, right? When you become married, how do you keep that and also keep your individualism as you're working with people in recovery at the same time?
A lot of prayer, because you know straight up I know what I prayed for when I was Nicole and the pastor, and we were praying. I know that I prayed for a man that loved Jesus like I do, and I know God answers prayers. So with that being said, because he loves Jesus like me, he's going to always ask him for the way, I can trust that he's going to ask Jesus before he makes that next move with me, so that we can walk together, and that we're both going to agree on that because it's scripturally based. So
right.
It's not that I go, oh yeah, you're the, it's not that I worship him. It's that I put my trust in him because he put his trust in Christ.
Right.
And so, and that makes that bond there, that if we're both trust in the same entity, the same belief, the same word, scripture, all of it, then we can go ahead and weave that together. So,
yeah. So I'm gonna ask Marcia this. Switch gears just for a minute. Was there as they were talking about their aha moment and that kind of thing? For Danny it was his stomach and food. When she cooked for me, I'm never going to forget that. That's a bumper sticker. When she cooked for me, but there's a lot more in that statement than just that, which we heard loud and clear. Was there an aha moment for you? Was there a specific time that you can pin down that you went, I'm going to marry this guy?
Well, ours was so different.
It was.
We didn't ever have a real dating relationship. I mean,
yeah,
we didn't go on dates just because of the program you were in didn't allow that.
Right.
And so when it just kind of like organically happened.
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, God was in it, but it was like the next thing we know, we're talking about marriage, and we hadn't really even discussed it. Beforehand. It was just like, yeah, that was the next step in our relationship.
So I have to share this little story about Miss V and the office at Teen Challenge. So I was working as the outreach coordinator for Adult and Teen Challenge. It was the main office was in Lebanon. That building's no longer there. It's now is it the STARS program or
yeah, it's a Samaritan Help.
Yeah, so there's a parking lot there where the building used to be. But I was on staff there, but we weren't permitted to be dating anybody, even as a staff member, unless you got to a different level of staff or whatever. But that I was one of the department heads. So I'm not sure why we couldn't date. I don't remember exactly, but I know that the
There's
director...
a lot of restrictions.
A lot of restrictions, yeah.
It's very restricted.
The director's wife came to me and said, I think it's time for you to start dating. I said, no, it's not. I'm going to be a bachelor for the rest of my life. I'm going to work here in this nice, comfortable little womb of a building and do this. And I'm not interested. But she finally talked me into it. And it was a blind date. We met on a blind date. Mm-hmm. And I did everything to sabotage that date. I took my tennis shoes and I spray painted them multicolors.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Some got on your shirt.
Orange shoestrings.
Yeah. Orange shoestrings.
And I am not. That's not me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it was just, so I for me, I had that moment. I think it was a flash in the pan, so it was a real quick thing, and I knew something had changed. It was like, it was when I asked her, I said, and her brother had me play the guitar. He says, play the guitar for her. Okay, so I played the guitar. And I asked her, I said, after the date was over, I said, so what did you think? And
no,
you remember
the
what
date
you said?
wasn't over. We
were at your
still
brother's
at my
house.
brother's.
Yeah.
They're the ones that set the blind date up. We double dated. And I go in the kitchen thinking, oh my gosh, what is this guy? I mean... Because actually you spent most of the date talking to my brother.
Yeah, well, that's because I was nervous.
And you were teaching him how to play the guitar.
Right.
And so I had got up, went to the kitchen to get a drink of water, and I'm contemplating what is going on. And he was playing this song, and he goes, so how do you rate our date? And I said, well, your guitar playing gets an A+. Because he was a good singer and a good guitar player. But I thought, how bold to just come out and say, how do you rate our date? I'm like, oh my gosh.
I didn't know what else to say.
EGO.
So, and I'm still like, he's a nice guy, would make a nice, good friends. I could tell that we'd be friends. But I was not thinking about marriage at that time.
And then I asked you, would you go on another date with me? And you said yes. And so we had planned.
I must have.
We planned to go to the David Meese concert. David Meese was a Christian contemporary artist back then. And I ended up having to work. So she says that
So he says, yeah.
I did. I had to work. I really did.
Did you see the check stub?
But I was in the office talking to the secretary for the Teen Challenge program at the time, and I was talking to her about the kind of wedding cake I wanted. Mm. And Marcia walks in, and she overhears this conversation.
Yeah, like he had the wedding planned. I mean, I like he had it all laid out, and I'm like,
"Atta boy."
Oh my gosh, what is going on?
Yeah, and so the rest is history.
I should have ran then.
And like she said,
here's your sign.
Right. And it just kind of formed, and
Mm-hmm.
there you go. So the thing was I had very little experience with the 12-step people, and that's what they were to me. They were those people.
Well, you were told, as a Christian, that
stay away from those guys.
Stay away. Yeah.
I was told they'll take your God away from you. They make you call him higher power. You won't be able to.
I showed you a picture of Danny and said, "Stay away from that."
They told people that really they
didn't know.
They didn't know. They were sort of accurate to some degree, but not to the degree that they were saying, which I found out later because half the stuff they said didn't come true. But so it was so I avoided that. But when I discovered that everything else wasn't working, this is what I was left with. And so I walked through the rooms of a recovery club. I had been to a 12-step meeting in Stockton, California once and liked it. I've been to another one in Stockton, and I hated it. And so I thought, well, I'll go back to the one I like. Makes sense. And then I was there one more time, and then years went by, and I ended up in Oregon and blah, 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 blah. But I ended up walking through the doors of what's called the URS Club, Unity Recovery and Service Club. So it was a mixture of different 12-step fellowships that rented the building. And the rest was history there. I kept waiting for people to tell me that, I couldn't talk about my God. And years later, there was a few people that said that, but I came to learn that wasn't the norm. Really, it happens once in a while. But and so then our journey continued.
There's a lot in between there.
Oh, there's a lot. Just like you guys, I know there's a lot of stuff in between with you guys. What would you say, Darlene? I'll ask you first. What would you say? Is we talk a lot about in recovery fellowships, talk a lot about character defects. We don't talk a lot about character qualities. And I think we cheat ourselves because I think that's important. For instance, in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, their basic text is the book entitled Alcoholics Anonymous, affectionately referred to as the Big Book. It says that, we take stock, in trade. In other words, we inventory not just the rotten fruit, but the good fruit, right? What is some of Danny's character qualities that you really fell in love with, besides him loving Jesus like you do?
That he, it's funny because the things that you thought were the cute things to begin with turn into the doesn't matter, and the things that, like for him, I like that he, when he makes a decision, that he hears my side of what I want, my opinion on that before it's a final thing. It's not a, excuse me, he doesn't go, nope, not doing that. Nope, we're not going to, he'll say, yeah, I'm not sure I want to do that. What do you think? And then I'll get to, because I may want to do that, whatever it is. I'm counted, I'm heard, and I'm listened to. And I think that's a great quality for a life partner, because who wants to be, I don't want to be unheard. I'm not a maid. I'm not a slave to you that doesn't deserve being heard. So I like the fact that that he considers the two of us instead of just, it's huge. So,
Danny, what about you? Same question.
Same question. Different answer? Or can I say this just quote, ditto? No,
no, that's cheating. No.
Keep your eyes on your own paper.
her being willing to be completely honest about her opinion with me and not just maybe say something that maybe I want to hear or something to just get out of something. She has an opinion or a belief or something that she has conviction for, and there's nothing that I'm going to do to change that. And I respect that in a woman. She treats me, when I'm not there, when she's around other men and women, the same as she would if I was there. and that's huge to me.
Wow.
Right? I don't have to think that she's, cracking jokes about Danny with all the women, derogatory kind of a whatever kind of a put down kind of a conversation.
And likewise, you've never done that.
No,
either.
I don't.
I've never heard you do that.
I don't. No.
Mm-mm.
And we're not even there yet. We've been married a little over 5 years, and we are not even close to where we're going to be. We got stuff going on that we don't even know about, but because we have that God in our life that knows the end.
Yeah.
We're supposed to walk with a purpose and trudge this thing and just do it together. And it's really remarkable that we get what we like to do is I say, let's do something that we've never done. And she's all for it. We've done things and go places that neither one of us have gone to or done. And we do it together. We experience a first, if you might say, all the time.
That's cool.
And that's what we like to do. I like to do that kind of stuff because, we're not going to be on earth forever, but we're going to be together forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
In the big picture.
Yeah.
So if we can be what we are together as an example to bring other people to church, to recovery, to something better, why not do that, right? We're not going to be that example if we're doing things differently or arguing or bickering or, because there's, in the real world, there's people that will teach us what to do and what not to do. In recovery, the exact same thing. There's people that I want to be like, and there's people that obviously by their actions show me what maybe I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
And they're both equally as important. She is that neither one of us are perfect, but she strives to be better. And it involves working with other women. Has nothing to do with me. I get to reap all of those rewards. That's the beauty of it. And vice versa. Yeah. If I'm on my knees in the morning with my relationship with God, before I even wake her up, I have a good chance of not screwing it up today. So it's just a learning as we go. Yeah. We're involved in our church. You said it. And we're involved in our home life. We don't keep secrets. And, and the people that are supposed to be in our lives, the Monties and the Marshas, right? And the other people, the women she works with and the fellows I get to work with, they're there for a reason. Right?
Yeah.
And so we don't take those things lightly.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. You got any questions for him?
I can't think off the top of my head of anything.
Okay. Well, if you think of one, jump in there. One last thing, because we are running out of time. So one last thing I wanted to ask you guys was, we all know the marvelous things that happen when we experience the transformation of following directions brings us, right?
Yeah.
Bruce H. used to say, there's no power in the steps. The steps are there to show me a need for a power, right? And some people would hear that and go, oh, I can't believe he says it. But he's right. They're a tool. They're the method. They're to the ultimate gift, right? Which is a relationship with the divine. And so you guys have that. But having said that, is there any particular step or application of them or tradition? A lot of people will take the traditions and apply it in their personal life, like when it comes to finances or things like that. Is there anything in amongst those that you have integrated into your marriage that has been beneficial for you as far as steps and traditions go? Danny, you first.
I believe some of the most important things is if I have something that has bothered me today, I try to fix it today or first thing tomorrow. That 10th step You know, you can go through the first step. You know, I'm powerless. What did alcohol or drugs do to me or take from me, or what it did for me, and then what did, you know, the unmanageable part, what it did to me and take away from me, you know. And then I get all the deep dark secret stuff. We don't sit at home talk about our deep dark secret, right? We're living in today. Those are reference points, right? The past is a reference point, and we don't want to be that way. We share that with our people we work with, or we share that at the appropriate times in a gathering. But that 10th step for me, you know, if I don't want to go to sleep still angry. Now, I'm not saying I never have.
Right.
Right. But the goal is not to. Right. And asking for forgiveness or asking for patience from her, for me, you know, is humbling. Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, I got it. We'll just move on past this. If I do that, I don't have it.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah.
Right? The goal here is to be one, like you said. We want to be harmonistically connected.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
It takes prayer. It takes, you know, being vulnerable. I'm not perfect at it. In fact, she's probably far better at it than I am. I'm not sure. But no, my goal is to get past those things. You know, learn from a mistake or a situation, and let's not do that again. How about that?
And the steps and traditions have been an excellent tool for you to learn how to apply what Bill Wilson referred to a lot, and that's a spirit of humility.
Yeah.
Spirit of humility. Some would say they call it being right-sized, right? And so that has helped you. So tradition, stepwise, Darlene, anything particular that has helped you in your marriage?
Mine is the whole who of it or how of it, however you want to, what order you put it in, is the honest, open-minded, and willing, because we're not always going to see eye to eye.
Sure.
We're not always going to agree 100% on something. But being able to be open-minded enough to say, what am I missing? Why does he want to do that instead of this? What is, you know, why not? You know, and be open to that. Always honest. That's just, we have to be honest with each other, because the pain or the fear or the drive that digs in the side of you of what if he finds out can kill anything, and it can kill everything. It can kill all that stuff that we work so hard to have, that the whole idea of, if I do this, what if he finds out? And I've lived that. I know that from experience, that will go ahead and will smash something immediately, because we don't have, he's right about the secrets, you know. And there's, you know, I'll just be honest. I found myself in a credit card mess just not that long ago, and I got to say, I need you to be gentle with me on this, because I already have the ego smash, the humility, and I said yes to everyone that they offered me, because somebody believed in me that I could manage that, and kept giving me more and more and more. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
I never had that before, because I was always not paying bills and not taking care of things and that stuff. And so I found myself in that, and in order to get out of it, I already was swallowing a lot of pride and looking at myself and going through some stuff already. So thank you for walking alongside me in that and not making me feel less than. You know, that's huge. Those are important things. And out of that, with him, I got the person that I put my trust in my whole life in his hands, that you're the leader that I thought God was telling me I would get. You are. You know, I got to go, this was, so I can, that assures me that I can be honest and open with him, and you know, none of that's, you know, and willing, and just willing to go, you know what, here's where I am, and here's what happened, and I don't feel like I can breathe right now, and my paycheck's not covering everything, and I feel like I'm drowning, and I created it myself. how do you say that to somebody? You know, I do have some dignity left, you know, but I got to have more dignity because I got to say that to somebody that didn't do that to me.
Yeah.
So I hadn't said that out loud.
Oh, you heard it first right here on Take 12 Radio. Yeah.
Right.
That is great. That is cool. Well, so just from me to the listeners, if you totally close off the idea that you are not going to meet the one that God's got for you within your recovery fellowship, you may miss out because you just don't know. You just don't know. It is very possible. With all the craziness that goes on within the rooms of the 12-steppers, there is a lot of solution and a lot of really healthy stuff, and it's a lot better place to meet your mate than the bar.
Amen.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, amen to that. And so to Marcia, thank you for joining us and chiming in a little bit there.
Thank you, Marcia.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And putting up with me and letting me do this for 20 years. And we'll see how much longer we'll keep going with it. Darlene, thank you so much for agreeing to come back on the show.
Absolutely.
And sharing your experience, strength, and hope. Danny, thank you so much for your brotherhoodship and your friendship and for coming back on the show as well. I appreciate it very, very much. We're going to get to listen to a great song. It's called Someone's Falling in Love. And this is by a gentleman that I have the utmost respect for, Mr. Mike O'Brien. He is what I would refer to as a recovery recording artist. He does a lot of music besides just recovery-focused stuff, but it's always positive. It's always soul-searching. And he just sent me this new song the other day. I said, this is going to be a perfect way to close out this show. So here's Mike O'Brien with his song, Someone's Falling in Love.
Somewhere in the world, right now, this minute, someone is falling in love. In every corner of the earth, with every heartache that's in it, someone is falling in love. So if you're down about the hate that's going round, just try remembering someone is falling in love. It's everywhere, might be red, it can still be found. Someone is falling
Mr. Mike O'Brien. For more of his positive music, visit his website at reverbnation.com/Mike O'Brien. Until our next broadcast, this is the Montyman and the rest of the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.
Love, I was made for me and you.